and then pay somebody 6% to do all this.
And do you think for a second that this whole point is not going to be marketed?
Oh, for sure.
Hey, listen, skip the hassle. These are their talking terms. Skip the hassle, skip the cost, go to the new way, get rid of the analog, go with the digital, and just list your house directly onto Zillow. Get an offer directly from Opendoor, and if you don't like it, all you have to do is market your property through Zillow for a small fee. Do you think this is not going to be mentioned? And I'll tell you what's happening right now. As the real estate industry is in decline right now, as the mortgage industry is in decline right now, Opendoor and all the fintech companies, they're trending upwards.
Yeah, we try not to do only market data because I think that if they're in the mode to buy or sell, they care. But what about those 7 years in between on average people move? Well, I think it's even 5 years now, but still, how do I stay relevant in their life for the next 5 years before they buy or sell so that they reach out to me when it's time? And so for us, it's, on our consumer stuff, it's very localized. Here, yes, there maybe it's a little bit of real estate.
LabCoatAgents, I'm Sean Curley, joined here by none other than Mr. Brian Stevens with the National Real Estate Post. This is your monthly installment of State of the Month. What the hell's going on in the mortgage world, the real estate world, and all the fun stuff in between. Like I say every time, if you do not have the National Real Estate Post mobile app on your cell phone, you need to go to your app store, type in NREP, download it, because you can see Brian's beautiful face on the daily, on some of the tidbits, his funny shows, and just insightful that I've been watching for over 10 years. So I appreciate your efforts there, Brian, and we're going to try and get as many people on your app as possible.
Love it.
But let's jump in. We got 5 talking points that I find interesting, fun, and I think everybody should know. So inflation has been a talking point. It's been a talking point since November, getting really real, and it's been here like the cold that won't go away, that hopefully it will at some point. But in June, we bubbled up to 9.1%. Crazy. We want to be at 2%. 9.1.
Yeah.
We're back to 1981 levels.
Yeah.
Over 40 plus years. Should we party like it's 1981 Volcker style? And who doesn't, the folks that don't know Mr. Volcker, he was the head of the Fed back then, and he did some really, really crazy things in the eyes of everybody, but it worked. So Brian, I'll let you take it away. Should we rock like Volcker style?
So I just saw one of the heads of the Fed said we're going to see another significant rate increase, another 0.75%, and people are losing their mind. They're absolutely losing their mind. We haven't seen inflation like this for 41 years, since 82 when Volcker was the Fed chief. And what he did is he said, "Here, hold my beer. I'm going to fix this thing on my own." we went from 8% to 16% in a matter of weeks. He didn't raise by 0.5% or 0.75%. He was jumping 5%. And then Congress started to question him about his tactics. And he said, we have to be extreme because people have to know that he's not messing around. Mm-hmm. And then what he did is when he didn't get inflation under control with his first hike, he hiked again another 5 points. So what happened is that, Congress went back to him and said, well, is this going to work? Because you're destroying everything right now. I mean, think of what these rate hikes are doing and for the cost of everything. The reason why gas prices are going down is because people aren't traveling. They're not traveling because they don't have money to go buy stuff right now. So the idea behind the Fed's raising rates right now is to basically cure inflation with a chemotherapy approach. Just kill everything off, kill our economy off. And don't put anyone in a position to buy anything, and it will bring prices down. So when he raised again, Congress went to him and said, is this going to work? Because you're destroying our economy. And he said, I don't know, but we're going to stay the course. We're going to see this thing through. And we've staved off inflation to those levels for the last 4 decades, which is really remarkable. And speaking in terms of Fed chiefs, there was a great quote. I just saw this his name was Friedman. And he said, inflation is like alcoholism. When you drink a lot, and you print too much money, the good effects happen immediately. That's why we have a tendency to keep printing money and keep drinking. The bad effects don't come until later. Now, the cure for inflation and alcoholism is the same as well, to stop drinking and to stop printing money. In that case, the bad effects happen immediately, the pain happens immediately, and you don't realize the good effects until later. So what we just came out of is we printed so much money, so much trillions of dollars. Call it COVID, call it whatever you want, but we have an entitlement state, my friends, and we are printing money and it feels good. And that was really wonderful. And when we all got those checks and didn't have to go to work, everybody loved it. But now we're starting to feel the ill effects of it, aren't we? So the cure to it is to essentially raise rates, stop printing money. And like alcoholism, we're feeling the pain right now. We're going into a recession as a result of what we did earlier by printing too much money. We won't feel the good effects of what's taking place until a little bit later on. But just like Volcker did in 81, we have to stay the course. We have to keep raising rates. We have to get inflation under control. I just had a conversation with one of my good friends. He just moved to London about a year ago. And so he came out here for a visit, and he came over to my house yesterday and we barbecued. And so the pound and the dollar are trading at about the same right now. That's never happened before. The euro and the dollar are trading at about the same right now. That's never happened before. And the truth of the matter is, what I learned from him is, you think we have it bad here. Go look at how most Asian countries have it right now, and go look at what the European community, how the European community has it right now. What is bad for us is absolutely killing everybody else. So I know this kind of stinks, but relative to the rest of the world, we still have it pretty darn good.
Yeah, so I liked how you intertwine alcoholism in there. So we're in the psoriasis of the liver part of the economy,
Exactly.
and we got to get it right.
Yeah, we're feeling the pain from changing our habits.
Yeah, for sure. And whenever we talk about rates, and I know a lot of you guys know this, some of you don't, it's the short-term rate. It's the, your Hillux, home equity lines of credit, your credit cards, your car notes. Why cars are more, cost more per month. Yeah, they're through the roof on what they cost to buy a damn, brand new car now, but also you're paying more on that note. And the main reason is it slows down the investment or big companies, company loans, business loans. And we're trying to halt the economy. We're trying to get people to hold on to their dollars instead of spending them. And then that lowers demand. That will hopefully lower price, hopefully lower inflation. But Volcker, 5% hikes compared to our 3/4 of a point. Whoa, right. 3/4 of a point. We're paying more now. He's like, screw it. I'm going to hit you over the head with a hammer at 5% per hit. And it works. So, at this point, I just want.
By the way, it took 2 quarters. Yeah. And then we got inflation back under control. It literally took 2 quarters. The Fed rate went from 8 to 16 back down to 8. That was a year when everyone hears the story, well, rates used to be 16%, 17%. That was under Volcker in 81. And then they quickly subsided. And what are we seeing happen with interest rates right now? In fact, all these Fed rate hikes that we're seeing right now, what are they doing? The effect of it is really making mortgage interest rates go down. For the first time in months, we've had the Freddie Mac 30-year fixed rate average is 4.99% at 0.8% cost. We haven't seen that in a long time. Yeah. So the Fed actions are actually bringing rates under control.
Well, pour the coals to it. It rates it up 2 points. Let's talk about another somber topic. With inflation, being a problem, things costing more, things of that nature, people turn to credit cards. Revolving, the report that we saw from the Wall Street Journal in May, consumer credit rose sharply to only $22.3 billion, set a record. People are swiping, borrowing at an alarming rate. Do you think that the middle class's savings accounts dried up due to this because they can't afford, they're just using credit cards for grocery, for gas, for whatever, or are they just out having one hell of a weekend with vacations on credit?
No, I just had a conversation with somebody in my office a few minutes ago, and she said, we're actually moving money. Somebody who's very astute and conservative with their funds. She says, we're actually starting to move money. People, the middle class is definitely feeling the effect of this. You can do one thing. You can tap into your savings, or you can go ahead and you can hit your credit cards. And that brings me, and so yes, emphatically, this is having a massive effect on the middle class, and that it's actually hurting the low and moderate income families more than it's hitting the middle class. It's actually worked its way up to the middle class. The upper middle class, they're not going to be affected by what's going on. But yes, this is absolutely having an effect, and it's just working its way up the chain. The conversation I heard was, as it pertains to loan officers and real estate agents, we all see what's going on. I think that's pretty obvious what's taking place here. It's the whole idea of HELOCs, a home equity line of credit. Now, the article said the Fed's actions are having families turn to HELOCs. Well, the Fed's actions are actually bringing rates down, but the whole idea of HELOCs is great, isn't it? Because we have a ton of untapped equity, more so than we've ever had in the history of this country. HELOCs are definitely on the table, and they're viable, so we can start to do those debt consolidation HELOCs. You can put your cars in there. You can put your revolving debt in there. You can do your home improvements. A HELOC is a great idea right now as a second mortgage, and almost anybody in this country can get one because everybody's got equity now. From a realtor or lender standpoint, nobody markets HELOCs. Nobody does. And the reason is they're not sexy. You don't make a whole bunch of money on them, and they're a pain in the ass. But in trying times that we have right now, we got to get lean and mean. This would be a great marketing opportunity because you simply won't be marketing against your competition. I say a real estate agent should look at marketing the whole idea of HELOCs, because in the course of those conversations, you're just flipping stones over, aren't you? You're looking under stones and seeing what's there. It's putting you in conversation with people who own homes, and people who own homes make decisions. Maybe you're just helping people out. Maybe you're just establishing relationships, or maybe you find yourself talking to somebody who's considering a HELOC, or just saying, hey, maybe I need to downsize, or maybe I need to, or upsize my living conditions right now. So having these conversations would be great from a realtor perspective. It's a great icebreaker for you. And you flip these over to your lender. And I'll tell you this, as a real estate agent, lenders are marketing just as much as real estate agents are right now. It used to be the whole brick and mortar approach 20 years ago, where, every one of the transactions went through a real estate agent, and it went through a brick and mortar building. But people are all starting the search online right now. We've known this now for the past decade. And because everyone is starting their search online right now, it doesn't have to go through a real estate agent, does it? It could go through a Zillow. It could go through an Opendoor. It could go through a local lender. It could go through anybody right now. So taking those HELOC opportunities and flipping those over to your lender are just going to ingratiate you to that lender, to where when they get opportunities to provide buying solutions for some of their clients and their sphere of influence, they might flip that lead back to you. There's a lot of goodwill for a real estate agent marketing HELOCs.
Yeah, I agree with that. The byproduct of what's happened with the equity has been huge, to where people have so much wealth built up if they do own. And a lot of times HELOCs are not bad. Why would, if I have all this money on paper, why shouldn't I be able to access it for what my family needs or what I need? The thought process of, well, you need to pay off your home, and because you'll have that equity whenever you go to sell. What if I need to use it now? So HELOCs by far are pretty damn powerful, especially with 20% appreciation rates over the past 2 years each year. Just stupid. Okay, let's talk about some of our favorite companies, our fintech companies. You said Opendoor, you said Zillow. Guess what? They're holding hands now. You want to tell the folks what the hell they're doing?
I've said this before. As a real estate agent, why you pay dues to anybody makes no sense to me whatsoever. I just got my hand slapped a couple of weeks ago at a local association for bringing up Zillow. Well, hold on, they're a broker. You're not allowed to say anything disparaging about a broker. No, but all I'm doing is repeating what's coming out of their mouth. I'm not saying anything disparagingly, but what's coming out of their mouth is very demonstrative to the real estate agent community. So they got out of buying houses where they were your direct competition. The reason Zillow became a broker is because they wanted access to all your listings. They were afraid that maybe one day you would say no. But when they became brokers, and then they became parts of all of your local associations, they got access to all of your multiple listing systems, and they started treating Zillow like an IDX feed. For some inexplicable reason, all the MLSs and NAR said, well, now they're a broker, so they're part of our community, as they systematically try to destroy you. Okay, so they got out of buying and selling houses because, believe it or not, their Zestimate algorithm wasn't perfect. It's interesting to think that they actually thought it was. but their algorithm for buying and selling homes blew up in their face, and they lost $500 million in what is it, 76% of their annual income. So they're out of buying houses. Yay. They're going back to what they do best, which is their premier agent platform, going and taking money from real estate agents' commissions and being an advertising platform. But you see, here's the problem. The United States housing market, the multi-trillion-dollar housing market, is too lucrative for a publicly traded company like Zillow, who has their legal and moral obligation, their fiduciary to their shareholders, to make as much money as humanly possible, to pass up. They simply can't pass it up. So what to do? What to do? We failed earlier on this buying and selling home things. Aha! You know who seems to have this thing figured out? Opendoor. Yeah, Opendoor. So now when a property goes to Zillow, that person who posts their house there onto Zillow can go ahead and have Opendoor buy that house. Or you can purchase it through Opendoor, and you get the whole suite of services from Zillow to help facilitate that transaction. They officially have gotten in bed together, and Opendoor is being the home buying and selling wing of Zillow. So we're back to square one right now, except for just having Zillow as your direct competition. We've now created the two-headed monster rather than the one-headed monster. And this is going to be a problem, guys. I mean, this is going to be a problem.
If I'm selling my house, I can go with a real estate agent, sign. They list it in the MLS, and Zillow actually has access to that information because they're a part of the MLS, they're their broker. And then now they go loads up to their website, and then Opendoor can swoop in and just make me a cash offer, voila. Or better yet, me as a savvy home seller says, why am I going to pay 6%?
Right.
Why don't I just put it on Zillow? Opendoor gives me an offer. Voila, I have a cash offer. And in everybody's eyes, especially the fintech companies, this is the easiest thing since sliced bread. And I don't have to, deal with cleaning the house, having showings, open houses, and then pay somebody 6% to do all this.
And do you think for a second that this whole point is not going to be marketed?
Oh, for sure.
Hey, listen, skip the hassle. These are their talking terms. Skip the hassle, skip the cost, go to the new way, get rid of the analog, go with the digital, and just list your house directly onto Zillow. Get an offer directly from Opendoor. And if you don't like it, all you have to do is market your property through Zillow for a small fee. Yeah. You think this is not going to be mentioned? And I'll tell you what's happening right now. As the real estate industry is in decline right now, as the mortgage industry is in decline right now, Opendoor and all the fintech companies, they're trending upwards.
Wow.
It's remarkable. This is absolutely going to be marketed. It's absolutely going to be thrown in your face, and it's absolutely going to cost the real estate community a ton of listings. Yeah. Again, why on earth would we support an association that supports this company who's in direct competition with real estate agents, with realtors? And why would we support a company that is going to directly market against us and actually disparagingly market against us? Look at the language that they use, Opendoor and Zillow. Get rid of the hassle, get rid of the analog, go to the digital. It's just remarkable to me.
Yeah, well, I need leads, Brian, and that's how I make my living. So I pay Zillow a bunch of money.
I can't see you on my
I talked about perception, that it's easy, that it's cheap. I don't have to pay an agent. Well, there's something behind the closet door, or behind the door there, that the FTC actually smoked Opendoor with a $62 million fine for misleading customers about the true cost. Yeah, they're going to say, don't pay the agent the commissions and stuff like that, but pay our convenience fee of X amount. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's always funny, but Opendoor also says, well, we didn't do anything wrong. We'll pay it, make it go away. But in our eyes, we didn't do anything wrong. What do you think?
Well, it's ridiculous. I've been talking about this all around the country for years now. No, they don't charge commissions. Commissions are bad. The average real estate commission is right around 5% right now, but their 7.5% experience fee is just perfectly fine. Why are realtors facing a class action lawsuit for their 5% for their commission, but the experience fee of 7.5% just flies under the radar? It's ridiculous. I have closing statements. I can show them to you. I can post them on your site right now, where they actually charge a market risk fee. I have a market risk fee of 3%. Has any realtor in the history of the world ever heard of a market risk fee? This market's pretty risky right now. I'm going to have to charge you an extra 3% on top of my 7.5%. The other thing that they do very effectively is they compare side by side what a real estate agent charges and what Opendoor charges. Now, if you go in and start reading the fine print on how they came to these numbers, they say, well, we're not exactly sure, but this is what our best estimate is that a real estate company is going to charge you in a traditional transaction. You read the fine print, they say, we're basically guessing. Now, if I own a company and you own a company, and I'm going to compare a side by side, wouldn't it be to my benefit to disparage you? I mean, it's underhanded, it's crappy, but this is exactly what's taking place. Because if I could, it's kind of like the political cycle right now. As a politician, I'm not going to tell you how great I am. I'm going to tell you exactly how bad you are. And those tactics seem to work right now.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the news. We hate how negative it is, but negative gets clicks. It's not the.
I'll tell you what. I'd rather let Anne Heche drive the direction of where real estate agents are going right now, more so than NAR.
Well, let's stop picking on them. Let's start picking on home builders. So we know that there was a huge inventory shortage. Now we've seen inventory come back because it is the cycle of the seasons, whatever, but it's not at a point where we really need it. I would love to see home builders building a bunch of single family homes. We've talked about this before, bringing the Corps of, Army Corps of Engineers, put up a bunch of tract houses that are affordable for folks to buy, because home prices gotten, it's left a lot of the market in the dust because of affordability. But home builders say, well, wait a minute, affordability and margin compression, all this other stuff. Let's stop building these single family homes. I want to start building apartment buildings and call them micro communities. And basically, per your show on the National Real Estate Post, you said bring the city environment to the urban areas. So where'd you come up with this? Or go ahead and give me your thoughts on this one.
It's social engineering is what's taking place. It is social re-engineering what's taking place. So what we're doing is, a lot of the home builders, even if they want to build single family residences in our outlying areas for families to purchase their own home, they're limited in terms of how many permits they're being given right now. The permits are dropping. So our elected officials are limiting the new home builders from building single family homes in outlying areas. They're doing it in favor of building high-rise condos for rent. The thinking is we're going to take the urban areas and we are going to social re-engineer and move them to the suburban areas. So and HUD has a long, rich history of doing this, particularly in the state of Missouri. And it's a social experiment that's being forced into communities right now, and nobody's looking at this. So, I mean, listen, we got to tiptoe really light here, because if somebody's living in a low income, possibly, I'm not saying for sure, higher crime environment, and wants to get out of that environment, and then we give that that opportunity to move to the suburban areas, the thinking is that we're going to take a lot of that crime from the urban areas, and when we move it over to the suburban areas, that it's all going to integrate and work perfectly well, and nothing is going to change in that suburban area. What we've discovered is when we move a higher crime community into a low crime community, that lower crime community tends to have higher crime. That's kind of what we've seen happen in the past. Again, I'm making no judgments about this. We had studies on this, but this is what we're doing right now, is we're creating a forced migration of urban to suburban areas. And I think the outcome of doing that could be very, very complicated.
Yeah. And
then, by the way, what we're also doing in the process is we're taking home ownership off the table in our suburban areas. I can't buy a house right now, but I can go ahead and rent an apartment. Well, there's a million studies on that as well. The higher the level, I mean, it tracks perfectly over time in every community. As home ownership rates go down, crime rates go up. It is the teeter-totter effect. As home ownership rates go down, our schools performances, our public school performances equally go down as much. We have a vested interest in our communities to go ahead and increase home ownership opportunities, not lower them right now. But I want you to think about this for a second. If you just give me a little leeway on this, little latitude. it was on my show today, and I've seen over in the communities that I live in right now, and it's popping up in communities all around the country, is I'm seeing literally multi-story, multi-unit homeless tracks. Now,
Oh, wow.
we're not talking about like living in a tent now. We're talking about 2- and 3-story homeless tracks on the side of the road. You're like, that's not true. The hell it isn't. Look it up. It's happening all over the country in all of our urban areas. Now, if I were to go into an urban area and say, well, this is very dangerous. I mean, it's a favela in Brazil or Venezuela is what's propping up everywhere. It's crazy. If I was to go in there and, hey, listen, I own a nail gun and I know how to cut a right angle, but I'm not a carpenter. If I were to go in there and say, I want to improve this situation, I'd be arrested. But right now, every one of our elected officials is turning a blind eye to these favelas that are popping up in communities all across the country. I started looking at this and I'm going, what does this remind me of? Oh, I remember in 1929 to 34 or whatever it is, during the height of the Great Depression, the homeless community went to DC and created this massive homeless encampment right in front of the White House. They called it Hooverville. So I went yesterday and I pulled up a bunch of pictures of the homeless encampments that I'm seeing today in all of our urban areas. And then I pulled up pictures from the Great Depression and Hooverville. The only difference between those pictures were the clothing that the people were wearing. And we now have color pictures. I'm actually going to print side by side black and whites and tell me which one is which. So over the last 94 years, our elected officials trying to solve homelessness, trying to solve affordable housing in 94 years. We're back to the Great Depression when it comes to housing. It's frightening. We have accomplished nothing. Empty words, paper dragons with all of our elected officials and what they've done. So it's absolutely crazy. This is another social experiment, what we're talking about, by rezoning in our suburban areas, and it is going to blow up in our face, and we've got a track record of doing this.
Yeah, you mentioned Missouri. That's where I live. I'm south
Yep.
of St. Louis, and there is a huge apartment complex in middle construction right down the street, another one. And now the neighbors are trying to fight another one popping up. It's like, what is going on here? Just, I don't know. I don't have the answers. I just watch and see what happens. And, I'll play Monday morning quarterback because, again, I don't know what button to push or what to say to fix it all. It's an interesting time to live.
I think you do, though. You just said it. We have to saturate communities all across the country with affordable housing that people can actually purchase so they have a dog in the fight. This isn't going to happen because it doesn't, frankly, at the end of the day, it doesn't help the new home builders because they like larger margins. It doesn't help anybody who owns a home because it's going to bring the value of their home down. That's going to happen. So there's definitely special interest in not solving the homeless issue because there's too much money at stake for too many people who already have a stake in the game.
Yeah, no,
but we have the solution right in front of our face.
Yeah, the entry-level single-family residence house is the foundation of our entire housing industry. And with that going away, it does put a lot of pressure on a lot of different things, and this is the unfortunate byproduct. So yeah, I don't know. Well, anything good? Anything positive?
Well, yeah.
I mean, we're going through the lakes are drying up. It's 100 degrees even in Montana. What else is going on?
Well, I'll tell you what, affordability is coming back a little bit, and that's a good thing. That's going to bring more buyers to the table. Okay. Rates are actually coming down. That's a good thing. It's going to bring more buyers to the table. This is also going to create an opportunity for more people to look at changing their housing situation, either moving up or moving down. Realtors, go out there, have conversations about HELOCs. Go look it up, figure out what a HELOC is, talk with your lender, and go out to your community, your sphere of influence, have a conversation and see if something comes of it. These are all good things. And we are all, by and large, playing on a level playing field. And what that means is that, if you win or if you lose, it's because of what your actions were. They were either not as good or better than the person to the left and right of you. So your success is still in your hands. It is 100% in your hands. We're all playing the same game on the same playing field. And I know a lot of lenders are going to like this. Rocket Company's earnings plunged 94% in the second quarter. Oh, 94%. If I made $100 last quarter, I made $6 this quarter.
Oof.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's positive. I just know a lot of people are laughing about it.
Oh, yeah. I'll keep my thoughts to myself because I want everybody to win. I'm politically correct.
Right. Except for Zillow and Opendoor.
Yes, except for fintechs and except for what are the other companies buying up like 28% of all the listings, all your hedge fund companies, just
Blackstone right now. Blackstone's the big one.
stealing houses from people that really need it. No, we're going to use it and throw renters in there, and that's our that's our revenue stream. But what, capitalism at its finest. All right, man, that's what I have. We're right at 30 minutes. We did it. Everybody that's still with us, download the damn app, NREP. Brian is amazing. That's where I steal all of his content. We just regurgitate it right here once a month. So I appreciate you, sir. And we'll see you next month.
All righty, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
All right.